Most people over 60 step into their day with stiffness, unaware that the first 10 minutes can lock in or release muscle tension for hours. Among the Old-Order Amish, however, a small, almost unnoticed ritual quietly defines their resilience. Rising before dawn not to stretch, but to move with intention. There's no warm-up mat, no supplements, just a habit grounded in necessity and rhythm. In traditional Amish communities, mornings begin before the sun rises and before the body fully wakes. This isn't arbitrary. Moving while the joints are still cold demands slow, deliberate action. Pulling on boots, fetching water, or lighting a stove. These motions might seem mundane, but they activate muscle chains without overloading them. The key lies in the consistency. Daily repetition of these early functional tasks serves as a form of low-grade isometric conditioning. Unlike sporadic exercise, this cumulative effort preserves elasticity in tendons and reduces the microspasms that often trigger leg cramps in the elderly. Another overlooked detail. Hydration starts immediately. Before breakfast, many Amish drink fresh well water. Unfiltered, mineral-rich, and drawn from limestone aquifers that naturally carry magnesium and calcium. These electrolytes help balance muscle contraction and prevent the nighttime cramping that plagues so many. While modern medicine often prescribes supplements, the Amish rely on consistency over correction. It's not a megadose once a day, but a steady intake throughout every chore. Even the act of walking out to the barn to check a fence or gather eggs plays its part. These are not long walks, but they are weighted. Boots on, often over uneven ground, requiring slight ankle corrections with every step. This micro-engagement of stabilizer muscles in the feet, calves, and hips builds real endurance. The routine might appear effortless, but therein lies its genius. It's sustainable, repeatable, unyielding. As outsiders look for shortcuts, pills, bans, or programs, the Amish maintain mobility through quiet, rhythmic startups every single day. But it's what they step onto next that adds an unexpected layer to this strength. Cold, dew-covered grass. Why does this matter? That's the next hidden lever. The sensation of stepping barefoot onto cold, dew-laced grass would send most people retreating indoors. But for the Old-Order Amish, this early morning contact with the earth is more than ritual. It's a circulatory primer grounded in both tradition and biofeedback. Before leather shoes or work boots go on, many elders spend a few quiet minutes walking slowly across their yards, gardens, or fields barefoot. This isn't eccentricity, it's calibration. Cold moisture against the soles triggers a mild vasoconstrictive reflex, forcing blood from the extremities toward the core, and then back again as the feet warm during movement. This natural vascular cycle improves tone in capillaries and small veins, particularly in the lower legs. Over time, the effect compounds: greater vessel elasticity, more responsive circulation, and less pooling of blood in the calves, a common contributor to cramps in older adults. But there's more. The uneven ground of a mowed but unpaved lawn challenges proprioception. Unlike flat indoor floors or sidewalks, dew-covered grass offers subtle slopes, dips, and shifting textures. These micro-instabilities require constant foot and ankle adjustment, which fires up dormant stabilizer muscles and improves neural control over gait. The Amish never call it neuromuscular training, but that's exactly what's happening. And because this barefoot time occurs before prolonged weight-bearing chores, it effectively primes the muscles and nervous system without overstressing them. There's a grounding effect too, literally. Though still debated in scientific circles, many within the Amish communities believe that direct skin contact with the earth reduces bodily inflammation. They don't cite studies. They cite how their elders walk unaided into their 90s, how a few minutes barefoot in the field calms restless legs and preempts cramps later at night. It's practical knowledge, earned through pattern recognition rather than publication. The ritual ends naturally as the sun begins to rise. Feet dry, boots go on, and chores begin. But already, blood flow is optimized, foot muscles are activated, and a subtle protective layer against cramps is in place. Still, the body is not yet fully conditioned. That happens next, when repetition meets resistance in the form of a deceptively simple tool: the axe. It's easy to underestimate the impact of chopping wood, until you see an Amish elder, well into his 70s, splitting logs with deliberate, almost meditative precision. Unlike gym machines that isolate muscles, the controlled repetition of wood chopping integrates balance, strength, and rhythm into one act. But what makes it uniquely beneficial to the aging body is how it recruits and strengthens the legs without direct pounding or joint compression. Amish wood chopping isn't a flurry of high-speed swings. It's paced. Each motion begins with a grounded stance. Knees slightly bent, feet shoulder-width apart on uneven dirt or gravel, and weight balanced evenly through the arches. As the axe rises, so do the calves engage to stabilize. As it falls, the glutes and thighs contract to absorb and redirect force. Over time, this builds not just muscle but reflexive strength, what physical therapists call functional loading. What's often missed in modern strength programs is the subtle endurance required to stay balanced while performing upper body work. With each swing, the lower limbs are continuously adjusting, counteracting torque, correcting hip shift, and keeping the body aligned. These micro-corrections build up endurance in the calves, hamstrings, and adductors, exactly the areas prone to weakness and cramping after 60. And because the load is real but self-paced, it prevents overuse injuries while still stimulating adaptation. The work also introduces a form of low-impact interval training, a few minutes of chopping, then a pause to stack, carry, or reposition wood. These alternating movements keep blood flowing and prevent muscular fatigue from setting in too quickly. In essence, the task naturally weaves together strength, balance, and circulation without needing instruction manuals or heart rate monitors. Even the terrain amplifies the effect. Rarely done on flat concrete, chopping in Amish settings usually happens beside barns or wood piles, often on sloped ground. This further recruits stabilizers in the feet and knees, forcing subtle adjustments with every shift in position. Over months and years, this adds a resilience to their lower bodies that many wither without. And yet, despite all this, leg cramps can still creep in, especially at night. Which is why many Amish don't leave prevention to movement alone. They treat the problem from within too, using a sharp, salty remedy that surprises most outsiders: fermented pickle juice. It might seem like folklore, drinking pickle juice before bed to stop leg cramps, but in Old-Order Amish communities, it's routine. Not store-bought pickles soaked in synthetic brine, but traditionally fermented varieties, where cucumbers sit in barrels of salt water until lactobacillus bacteria convert sugars into lactic acid. The resulting liquid isn't just tangy, it's a potent mix of electrolytes, trace minerals, and bioactive compounds that can halt muscle spasms in under a minute. The Amish have no need to explain the mechanism. They observe the result. Elders who drink a small glass of fermented pickle brine at dusk report fewer cramps and less nighttime stiffness. Unlike sports drinks loaded with refined sugars or pills that offer single-element solutions, this tonic delivers sodium, potassium, magnesium, and acetic acid in a naturally balanced form. And it works fast. Field experience shows that sipping 1 to 2 ounces about 30 minutes before bed reduces the frequency and severity of nocturnal cramps, particularly in the calves and arches of the feet. More than prevention, the practice serves recovery. After a day of farm labor, pushing cultivators, climbing lofts, walking unpaved paths, the muscles need more than rest. They need replenishment. The brine acts as a signal to the nervous system, interrupting errant firing of motor neurons that cause cramping. Though not fully understood, research into neuromuscular reflexes suggests that the sharp, sour shock of the brine may trigger receptors in the throat and stomach, calming overactive nerve signals long before digestion even begins. Storage is equally important. Amish households keep the fermented brine in cool cellars, not pasteurized or refrigerated, so the probiotics remain active. Some even mix it with a few drops of cider vinegar or fresh garlic to intensify the effects. It's never consumed in large amounts. Too much can irritate the stomach. But the right dose, taken at the right time, quietly maintains muscular balance into the night. Yet for all its effectiveness, this remedy works best when paired with something external, a treatment that targets circulation and muscle tone from the outside in. That's where the next tradition comes in. An old poultice recipe made from freshly ground cornmeal, used not for nourishment but for healing. It begins as food, but ends as medicine. Hand-milled cornmeal, when heated and mixed with herbs or cider vinegar, becomes one of the most time-tested remedies among Old-Order Amish for treating lower leg tension, stiffness, and cramping. Applied as a poultice to the calves or ankles in the evening, it delivers warmth, improves blood flow, and draws tension from overworked muscle fibers. And while modern medicine rarely looks to pantry staples for solutions, this soft yellow paste remains a core part of Amish elder care. The preparation is simple, but timing and ingredients matter. Freshly ground cornmeal, usually coarse, is mixed with boiling water until it forms a thick mash. Into this, many add a spoonful of apple cider vinegar, not just for its astringency, but to help open capillaries and mildly stimulate the skin. Sometimes, crushed mustard seed or dried yarrow is stirred in for additional warming properties. The mixture is then spread thickly onto a linen cloth and folded over the leg, from mid-calf to ankle, while still hot, but never scalding. This isn't just a comfort measure. The heat, held close to the skin for 20 to 30 minutes, dilates vessels in the lower limbs, drawing stagnant blood back into circulation. This passive recovery aids in clearing lactic acid and reduces the low-level ischemia that often triggers nighttime cramps in older adults. For elders who've been on their feet all day, it's not optional, it's routine. And because it requires preparation and stillness, it becomes a quiet ritual that reinforces rest. In Amish homes, the poultice is often used in tandem with elevated rest. After application, the legs are typically propped up on a slanted wooden board or thick pillow. Nothing fancy, just enough to encourage venous return. The poultice stays on until it cools, then the leg is wiped clean with warm water and lightly oiled with lard or beeswax salve to retain moisture and prevent skin drying. While some might dismiss it as outdated, the cumulative effect over weeks is unmistakable. Softer muscle tone, fewer cramps, better nighttime rest. It's an external signal to the body. Restoration is beginning now. But restoration isn't passive in Amish life. The day doesn't revolve around rest, it revolves around motion. And few daily movements do more for leg strength and balance than one built into nearly every structure in their world. The barn loft stair. To the untrained eye, Amish barns seem rustic, even austere, but hidden in their architecture is a daily workout more effective than many formal fitness routines. Barn lofts, typically accessible only by steep wooden stairs or ladders, force repeated vertical climbs throughout the day. And this elevation change, done dozens of times without fanfare, strengthens hips, knees, and calves with each ascent and descent. Unlike modern stairs with shallow treads and uniform risers, Amish loft access often involves uneven steps, longer rises, or slatted wood that demands careful foot placement. Each climb recruits not just the major leg muscles, quadriceps, hamstrings, glutes, but also engages ankle stabilizers and core musculature to keep balance. This makes the act of fetching hay, tools, or grain feed from an upper level more than a chore. It becomes resistance training. What sets it apart is its integration into daily life. Amish elders don't schedule workouts, they live them. Climbing the loft happens in short, frequent bursts. Early morning to check feed levels, midday to retrieve tools, evening to store equipment. These repetitions throughout the day prevent joint stiffness and preserve mobility. The low frequency of falls and hip fractures in these communities is no coincidence. This kind of vertical motion keeps joints limber and reflexes sharp. On descent, another benefit emerges. Descending stairs activates eccentric muscle contractions, where muscles lengthen while under tension. This action, particularly in the quadriceps and calves, has been shown to improve tendon resilience and reduce age-related muscle loss. Many exercises in physical therapy mimic this with controlled step-downs. The Amish get it naturally, several times a day, without gym floors or supervision. The variability in stair type adds even more training. Some lofts have hand-hewn logs, others have rope assist ladders, and still others involve climbing via stacked barrels or crates. Each variant teaches adaptability and proprioception, skills critical for preventing missteps and injuries, especially in aging bodies. Even for those less mobile, partial climbs or the act of carrying light bundles up a few steps serves the same purpose. The work is scalable, instinctive, and free from the wear and tear of forced exertion. But once the climb is done, most wouldn't expect what happens next. A walk, not on pavement, but on intentionally rough, natural ground. It's a path that doesn't just take them somewhere. It trains them. While most urban walkers seek out smooth sidewalks or cushioned tracks, the Old-Order Amish move deliberately over unpaved, uneven paths, by choice, not necessity. These foot-worn loops around barns, gardens, and pasture edges are more than simple trails. They're training grounds that quietly strengthen ankles, knees, and hips with every step. It's an instinctive form of stability work that modern rehabilitation programs now try to replicate with balance boards and agility mats. These loops aren't designed, they emerge. Packed over decades by hooves, boots, and wagon wheels, they feature dips, root knots, ruts, and the occasional patch of wet clay. As elders walk them, each step activates the peroneal muscles on the outer leg, tibialis stabilizers at the shin, and deep flexors in the feet. These are the exact muscles that prevent missteps, trips, and falls, especially critical after 60 when response time slows. Pacing is slow, often meditative. There's no rush, no timed lapse. Elders might make these loops before breakfast, after supper, or during reflective moments midday. But the frequency matters. Several short, unhurried walks on uneven terrain each day do more to preserve gait integrity than one long, flat stroll on asphalt. The body learns over time how to adjust subtly, absorb shock, and recover balance, without thinking. Another hidden benefit is ground feel. Without the insulating soles of modern shoes, Amish footwear tends to be simpler, with thinner leather or minimal rubber. This allows more sensory input from the ground, helping the body instinctively adjust to irregularities. In effect, every walk is a lesson in micro-adjustment, a skill many lose with age, and which paved environments actively erase. These paths also offer social structure. Loops are walked alone or in quiet pairs, with minimal talking. They function as mental reset as much as physical therapy, but their impact on the body is measurable. Reduced foot cramping, better ankle alignment, improved stride length. Even so, tension still builds at the end of the day, especially after long hours on foot. That's where a deceptively simple recovery method steps in. The dusk-time white vinegar foot soak. Warm, acidic, and deeply cleansing, it's not just hygiene, it's circulatory medicine in a basin. At dusk, when the workday draws to a close and muscles begin to tighten, many Old-Order Amish turn to a time-worn remedy as instinctively as others might reach for a chair. A white vinegar foot soak. Simple in appearance, a metal basin, warm water, and a splash of distilled vinegar. This ritual holds layers of restorative logic beneath its surface. For elders over 60, it's not indulgence. It's maintenance. The soak begins with water heated just above body temperature, enough to coax open capillaries without scalding the skin. Into this, a half cup to 1 full cup of plain white vinegar is poured, occasionally with a pinch of Epsom salt or dried mint. The acidic environment lightly exfoliates the skin, reducing calluses that can disrupt foot posture and strain muscles up the kinetic chain. But the real benefit lies deeper: improved circulation and muscle recovery. Acetic acid in the vinegar acts as a mild vasodilator, helping to expand peripheral blood vessels and draw warmth and fluid to the feet. For individuals who've spent the day walking uneven paths, climbing loft stairs, or working fields barefoot or in thin shoes, this restoration of blood flow relieves the low-level fatigue that often leads to cramping during the night. The warm soak also triggers a parasympathetic response, calming the nervous system and initiating a drop in core body temperature post-soak, priming the body for sleep. The Amish understand this intuitively. Soaks last 15 to 20 minutes, often performed in silence or quiet company, followed by a thorough drying and, critically, a firm rub-down. Not just towel dry, but a friction massage from heel to calf, stimulating lymphatic return and breaking up facial tension. In winter months, this is followed by wrapping the feet in dry wool socks, not for comfort, but to retain the heat and promote ongoing circulation through the night. While foot baths are seen in many cultures, few tie them so seamlessly to daily exertion and nighttime repair. Among the Amish, it's less a treatment than a keystone habit. And it works, not just because of the ingredients, but because it caps a day of intentional movement with equally intentional rest. But the recovery isn't purely external. Internal balance matters too, particularly the body's pH and inflammatory load. That's why many Amish supplement the evening soak with an old tonic passed down through generations: raw apple cider vinegar and honey, taken not for flavor, but to keep joints supple and legs limber into old age. A spoonful of raw apple cider vinegar stirred into warm water with honey may seem too humble to matter. But within Amish communities, this tonic is a daily staple, especially for those over 60 seeking to prevent leg cramps and maintain joint fluidity. It's taken not as a fad, but as a tradition, with breakfast, midday meals, or at dusk alongside foot soaks, serving a role few supplements replicate. Internal regulation of muscle function and inflammation. The blend is always unfiltered, cloudy with the mother. Those strands of beneficial enzymes and bacteria that form during natural fermentation. 1 tablespoon of vinegar, mixed with 1 of raw honey in a cup of warm, never hot, water, creates a solution that's both alkalizing in effect and mildly anti-inflammatory. Though vinegar is acidic outside the body, its metabolic byproducts help regulate internal pH, countering the acidosis that can develop in those with diets high in grains or processed meat, conditions that predispose muscles to cramping and connective tissue to stiffness. Honey, far from being just a sweetener, adds micronutrients like potassium and magnesium, and also soothes the gut lining. This matters because the Amish don't just think of muscle cramps as isolated. They believe internal imbalances, gut, blood, nerves show up first in the limbs. The tonic, taken daily, works slowly but decisively, supporting the body's ability to absorb minerals and regulate nerve impulses. Anecdotal observation backs it. Elders who take the mixture regularly report fewer nighttime spasms, smoother waking motion, and better resilience after long workdays. Timing is everything. In the morning, it jumpstarts digestion and circulation. In the evening, it supports overnight tissue repair. For those with recurring cramps or stiffness, some add a pinch of cayenne to boost circulatory response. Though this isn't standard across all districts, the tonic isn't overused, just once or twice a day, every day for decades. What's striking is that despite the lack of calcium tablets, magnesium sprays, or sports drinks, Amish elders show better muscle tone and fewer degenerative complaints than many of their modern peers. It's the result of layered habits, external and internal, movement and rest, prevention and response. And now that the internal system is primed, the body is ready for the next mode of strengthening. Slow, repetitive fieldwork that demands full leg engagement, not from weights but from pushing steel into soil. Out in the fields, far from any structured exercise regime, the Amish engage in one of the most deceptively powerful leg conditioning activities known to manual labor: hand-pushing a cultivator. These wheeled tools, often single-row or double-row rigs with metal tines, are pushed through tilled soil to remove weeds and aerate the ground between crops. At first glance, it looks like upper body work, but anyone who's tried it quickly realizes it's the legs, hips, and core that carry the load. Each step forward is resisted by soil drag. The harder the ground or the more mature the weeds, the more force required. Not in sudden bursts, but in a continuous grind. This recruits the quads, hamstrings, and glutes in a slow burn contraction that builds muscular endurance and functional strength. Unlike shoveling or lifting, which can strain joints with poor form, pushing a cultivator naturally aligns the spine, sets the hips in motion, and distributes workload across the lower body evenly. And there's more beneath the surface. Amish elders often push these cultivators in staggered rows for hours at a time, meaning the leading leg changes direction row by row. This alternates the load, preventing dominance on one side and ensuring bilateral leg conditioning. The terrain, soft, sometimes slippery with dew, often ridged by irrigation, forces micro-adjustments with every footfall, engaging stabilizer muscles in the ankle and calf, the very ones that atrophy quickest with age. This work also integrates balance and proprioception. With each push, the body must stay centered over a shifting resistance point. Lean too far forward, and the tines bind. Too far back, and progress stops. Over time, this trains reflexive balance control far more effectively than any wobble board or physical therapy drill. Amish elders who've spent decades behind a cultivator often retain excellent gait control, even on ice or uneven ground. Fieldwork is typically done in long, broken shifts, early morning, post-lunch, and late afternoon, allowing recovery in between. But those short rests aren't passive. They're often paired with sips of raw milk, another unassuming tool in the Amish arsenal that helps maintain leg function through its natural magnesium load. No powders, no fortified drinks, just a food source rich in the mineral most closely tied to muscle relaxation and nerve signaling. For most, raw milk is a nostalgic image or a debated health topic, but for the Old-Order Amish, it's a living staple, consumed daily in its unprocessed form and revered not for taste, but for function. Among its many contributions, raw milk delivers a steady, bioavailable dose of magnesium, calcium, and potassium, precisely the trio required to prevent muscle cramping and maintain nerve-muscle balance. And for elders pushing cultivators, climbing lofts, and walking rugged loops, these minerals are not optional, they're foundational. Unlike store-bought milk, which is pasteurized and often stripped of natural enzymes and beneficial bacteria, raw milk in Amish homes is consumed straight from the cow, chilled immediately, and often drunk within a day. This freshness matters. Magnesium exists in a more absorbable form when not exposed to heat processing, and it works synergistically with calcium and vitamin D, also present in raw milk, to help regulate muscle contraction and relaxation. For aging muscles prone to twitching, spasms, or fatigue, this nutrient combo functions like internal insulation. But it's not just about preventing cramps. Magnesium also supports ADP production, the energy currency of every cell. And in muscles, ADP is essential for releasing contractions after exertion. Without enough magnesium, muscles stay locked, leading to the stiff legs and slow recovery that plague many after 60. Amish elders, by contrast, recover faster and report smoother transitions from effort to rest, thanks in part to this daily, bioavailable mineral supply. Raw milk is also naturally rich in B vitamins and probiotics, which support gut health, another overlooked aspect of muscular performance. A well-functioning gut ensures nutrient absorption remains high, even as the digestive system ages. Many in the community pair milk with whole grain bread or soaked oats, improving mineral uptake and preventing the blood sugar spikes that can trigger muscle instability. The volume is moderate. Most elders consume 1 to 2 cups per day, often mid-morning or with the evening meal. It's never gulped down as a supplement replacement, it's simply part of the food matrix. And because the cows are grass-fed and locally kept, the milk is seasonally variable, richer in omega-3s and fat-soluble vitamins during pasture months. This natural variability reinforces the body's adaptability and reduces reliance on artificial balancing acts. Still, all the nutrition in the world can't replace movement. Which is why, every day, Amish elders not only work their land, but interact with the animals that sustain it. In the next rhythm of their leg conditioning, it's not resistance or load that matters, but flexibility and motion. And for that, they turn to an unexpected trainer, the horse. To an outsider, driving a buggy or tending a horse might seem like an upper body task, reins in hand, voice commands, and posture. But within Amish life, these quiet, repeated animal interactions double as a full-spectrum mobility exercise, especially for the legs. And after age 60, it's not the strength alone that preserves movement, but the range, balance, and reflexes cultivated through these daily horse-guided motions. Mounting a buggy involves a slight lateral twist, then a push-off from one leg, usually onto a narrow wooden footboard. That move alone, repeated day after day, requires hip mobility, knee control, and ankle stability. Once seated, the legs remain semi-engaged. There's no cruise control. Terrain is variable. Steering requires subtle bracing of the lower body against road bounce, often over dirt, gravel, or mud paths. Every bump becomes a mini core and leg reflex, training postural endurance without conscious effort. But the real benefit lies in ground interaction, walking beside the horse, guiding it into harness, or turning it around at the end of a row. Horses are responsive animals. They react to hesitation, so the Amish must step with calm authority, even when joints ache or balance falters. This daily necessity forces aging bodies to maintain confident foot placement and leg coordination. Guiding a horse through tight barn corridors or uneven paddocks becomes, in effect, a natural balance test. Harnessing work is also rhythm-based. Moving around the horse requires crouching to check hooves, lifting traces, and stretching across the yoke. These motions mimic physical therapy stretches, engaging the hips, knees, and hamstrings in a slow, controlled way. Unlike structured yoga or mobility classes, these stretches occur organically, embedded in function, not imposed as exercise. Elders often perform these routines multiple times daily: morning feed, midday turnout, and evening bedding. The repetition reinforces coordination, maintains stride confidence, and keeps hip flexors supple. Importantly, this movement happens in varied conditions: slick snow, thick summer grass, wet straw. That variability protects against the single surface dependency that often leads to falls in urban elders. Still, the Amish understand the toll that cold seasons and night air can take on circulation. So when winter sets in and the ground hardens, they rely on one more tradition. Not for mobility, but to preserve it: layered wool leg wraps, hand-bound for warmth and vascular protection.